with that is if all prices went up equally and all labor went up equally, it wouldn't be a big deal. Everybody would be even Steven. But it doesn't work that way. When they create new money, it helps special interests. We've been doing this for years and years, especially since 1971, since there was no linkage of our dollar to gold. So the money went into different areas. It went into education, which shot up the prices, you know, of education, medicine, housing, and also it can go into energy. So inflation is a problem. If you don't solve the problem of inflation, you're not going to stabilize the prices. But also, for decades now, especially with this administration, there's been too much interference in the development of new energy. The market doesn't provide us with alternative sources or more oil, more gas, or whatever. So that has been a hindrance to it. But you need the free market, because even with the inflation that we have right now, it's creeping into food and everything else. We have a lot more inflation than the government admits. So if we continue to do this, the prices will continue to go up. But in some areas of our economy, it's still run by the free market. Electronics and televisions and cell phones. Guess what? Even with inflation, those prices can go down. But when the government gets involved with regulations are a big deal for energy, and the prices go up. But you don't need like an energy policy in Washington that said, do A, B, and C, we're going to give you subsidies for this, and I want you to develop this and this. You don't want the bureaucrats and politicians telling people what to do. You want to just get the government out of the way and treat it more like a free market. Can you imagine what would happen that if the federal government 10 or 15 years ago decided, you know, it'd be very good for everybody to have a cell phone, especially little kids, because we can follow our kids and monitor our teenagers and everything else. But what we're going to do is make sure everybody gets a cell phone. So we have a government mandated cellular phone program, and we're going to contract out with one company to develop the cell phone. You know what? The cell phone probably wouldn't work, and it would cost lots of money. Just think of how we buy stuff in the military. $500 for hammers and everything else. So the market works for cell phones, and the prices go down, the quality goes up. So that's what we need to do with energy. We also need to do the same thing for medical care too, because the government gets too involved in directing the funds into medical care, and they push up the prices and they distort the market. But we don't have to. The one thing that a lot of people think, well, that's one of the reasons why we have to be in the Middle East to protect our oil routes. I don't believe that for a minute. We have a lot of energy in this country. People, whoever's in charge of that oil, they're going to have to sell their oil someplace. Japan doesn't go around worrying about where they're going to get their oil. They don't have any oil wells at all. So the policy should be markets, and let the market decide, let the consumers decide. No subsidies to any one person. If you give tax benefits, they should be equal to all forms of energy. And believe me, we would be taken care of. You wouldn't have to worry about it. And we'd have all the energy we need.
Well, welcome, and thank you for coming to our subject here in New Hampshire. As a doctor specializing in obstetrics and gynecology, I'm sure you know that prenatal care is essential to the health of both mothers and their babies. Why then would you want to repeal the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, which will provide prenatal care to women with no out-of-pocket costs to ensure that even low-income women can afford this important preventive care?
Simply because I don't believe in socialism.
Yes.
That is the reason. When delivers a service, they push up costs and they cause inefficiency. I practiced medicine in the early 1960s out of medical school, and there was no government involvement, and everybody was charged the least amount. I worked for $3 an hour in a church hospital and took care of anybody or everybody that came in. Now today, somebody told me the other day they went to an emergency room and they had a strained muscle, it turned out to be. They got an $11,000 bill. Governments are inefficient. They charge the most money. It's not insurance any longer. It's this old story. Governments can't deliver goods or services efficiently. So,
I'm
I'm 63 years old, I don't even have health insurance.
Well,
And so, I mean, and.
it's a mess right now.
It's a mess right now.
It's a mess right now.
How would you?
It's a mess right now because the government created the mess, because I want to change it. I don't cause the mess. But I'll tell you what I do in my budget. Because I do have concerns for this, and I do want to slash the spending. I do not touch Medicare, I don't touch Social Security, I don't touch child health care. So, because I want to work our way out of it. If we as a country continue to spend money, you're going to have runaway inflation, and all these services are going to be canceled out. That's what happens when you destroy the money and you spend beyond our needs. And that is what this worldwide crisis is all about, is threatening that this whole thing is going to come down on you. So this is why I say cut the spending, save the dollar, protect the people who have been taught to be dependent. In theory, you would be less dependent on the government if the government had never to take care of you forever and ever. But I'm not doing that. What I am doing is trying desperately to work our way out of this. But people are getting awfully frightened about this. I mean, that's why they're going to the streets and they're worried like you are, and you should be worried. But the solution isn't...
It's not government, it's the insurance companies.
Well, this is the whole thing. She mentions the insurance company. This is what happens with government. In a way, I overreacted by talking about socialism. We don't have old-fashioned socialism. We have something closer to fascism, because what happens is when government gets involved, the American people don't like the word socialism. That means the government controls everything possible and they dictate everything. And when they do that, if they dictate everything, actually the quality of care goes down. But what happens when they're reformed, Republicans or Democrats? Guess who gets in charge of it? The corporations, the drug companies, the insurance companies. Those are the ones. Even Obama, you thought, was going to give us a better deal and make it, maybe more government and less corporate medicine. But it is corporate medicine, organized medicine does it. And what do they do on the restrictions? The drug companies are so powerful. If you want alternative care, alternative methods, and vitamins and nutritional products, the drug companies come in and they put inhibitions against this. But the Republicans get in, what they do? They gave us prescription drug programs. Again, a benefit to drug companies. So, no, I don't want any benefits. I want benefits to the consumer, and the consumer is best protected by the marketplace, and real insurance is what we need. But I understand your problem, a lot of people concerned, and that is why I wrote the budget as I did. But if we don't do what I suggest, believe me, medical care is going to be very, very scarce, and it will be rationing, and you won't be happy with what you get.
Okay. Since most of us here now, finally understand how the financial system has been working for years, even though a lot of us have known for a very, very, very long time, who will be the people who will bring, I hate to say it, but if our own government's breaking its own laws, who is responsible for making sure that they're actually, held responsible for this? If they're breaking our own laws, who is going to oversee that these people are actually...
Well, are you talking about the way the Federal Reserve System has tremendous powers and pass out their money to the favored? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's, we know that our own government's breaking its own laws.
Yeah.
Why is anyone being held accountable?
Yeah, because there are so many that have broken the law. They're the large majority up there. So there's nobody to police them. It's up to us. The people have to do it. And that's the only way it's going to happen. The frustration level is so high because there's been 2 episodes now of the Tea Party movement. They were complaining that neither party was doing the trick, and now it's Occupy in the different areas. People are very upset about it and are trying to figure out. But we have to be careful to blame the right ideas that have brought us to this. But there is so much. I mean, right now, you take the war issue. We haven't had a declared war since World War II. And we've been fighting these wars continuously. Who's responsible? That's unconstitutional. I mean, going into Libya. going into Libya, the president never even notified us. He just said, I'm going in. And now he's saying, well, Congress is too slow. I'm just going to write the laws, write executive orders. That's all unconstitutional. But this has been going on, not just with this administration, it's been going on for decades. The money issue. I mean, the Constitution still said only gold and silver can be legal tender. You can't use paper money, and there's no authority for a central bank. So these are all, out of it. So pretending that we can solve the problem by saying, well, what we need is an impeachment movement. We have to impeach the bad ideas. We have to decide what the next generation wants. We need to decide whether we believe in freedom for the deliveries of goods and services, and we believe that we ought to mind our own business. We have enough problems here, let alone telling the rest of the world.
You say that you're going to cut the loan program for like college tuition, but what do you plan on doing for already existing debt and absolutely outrageous tuition prices?
What are we going to do to get the students to pay off their debt?
Yes.
Okay. The very best thing I could do is first advise people that they shouldn't go into debt. And second, that you're already, a lot of people are in debt. Matter of fact, there's more student debt than there is credit card debt, if you can believe that. When I saw that, it was unbelievable. So it was this enticement, this seduction. Students are indentured servants now. They owe so much and there are no jobs. So the best thing that I could do as a president to resolve this is to devise this system and return to some sanity so that you can have a job, so you can pay down the debt. That would be the most important. But, there was a time, just as I mentioned in medicine, there was a time when, the costs were lower and the office calls were $5. That's what they were when I started medicine. But in education is the same way. When I went to college, I was in a family of 5 boys, and we had to work our way through. But I grant you, it's not so easy today, because my tuition for a semester was $325. But I worked all summer, had 3 jobs during school, worked my way. No, I can't say I worked my way through medical school, because I got married. I always say my wife worked my way through medical school.